Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that more than you know, and it looks like we still have a few left in here after lunch, which is great. I am very humbled as a South Central Section PGA member to be up here in front of this group of the leaders of the PGA of America, my peers. I'm just a small-town guy from Stillwater, Oklahoma, that had an idea that was embraced, and I will be indebted to each and every one of you in this room for your support, your belief in this cause that I think truly is just getting started, as Bob indicated in the video there. In 2007, PGA members raised $1.1 million, or helped raise $1.1 million. And as you saw, that will go to help provide scholarships for truly our most deserving citizens in this country, the spouses and the children of those wounded and killed in action in Iraq and Afghanistan. I was in Washington, D.C. last week, and just to let you know that your efforts are greatly needed. There was an organization that had 10,000 requests for financial aid from spouses of military members, and we're only able to fulfill 65 of those due to their financial limitations. And we're going to be able to go in there and immediately impact and help those spouses trickle down that tradition of education in those families. I would like to thank each one of you, and I would be remiss if I didn't single out a few folks. It was definitely a team effort. To Brian Whitcomb, who when I called him on the cell phone, I couldn't believe he called me back the next day and was on board immediately. Joe Steranka, his belief. Jamie Carboni and all the PGA staff. As this thing took off, we were shooting for 500 courses, and every secretary and every person at PGA headquarters was stuffing envelopes as fast as they could for days, and so I single-handedly stopped operations down there for a month, so that was great. A couple PGA golf professionals that stood out, and again, it was a team effort, but Jack Connolly, Brad Demo of the Midwest section, Paul Reinking, both long-term friends of our family that really stepped up to the call. And again, to each one of you, in 40 days, we had over 3,200 golf courses sign up for this initiative. So for me to you, I'd just like to give everybody a round of applause. I just want to share a little bit about my motivation and where I come from. I'm a PGA member. I'm a golf course owner, operator with my father, John, who's here today. I'm an F-16 pilot in the Oklahoma Air National Guard, and father of 3 wonderful young girls. My typical month, I serve 10 days, 8 to 10 days in the military, flying F-16 sorties. As it said in the video, and Brian had said, I've done a couple tours in Iraq, and our squadron is scheduled to go back this fall for a 3rd tour. I've seen a lot of tragedies firsthand that I wouldn't want anybody in this room to see in Iraq, and that's where I come from. I was compelled when I returned from my last tour in 2005 to do something to make a difference, and I truly believe it's a calling from above. And when I got back, it was probably a month since I'd been home, I was on a different flight. And this is truly what pushed me over the edge in knowing that something had to be done. It was a United Airlines flight, 664, and I was headed up to our golf club in Grand Haven, Michigan, flying from Chicago O'Hare to Grand Rapids. And it was one of those cold, awful, dark, delayed nights in Chicago O'Hare that if you do any travel time, and Brian got stuck there on his way to Michigan, so he knows, that's not any fun. And we waited on this United Air plane, and we waited, and finally ended up getting on the plane, and I noticed there was a kid in dress greens, a corporal in 1st class. And I didn't really think anything of it other than, wow, that's nice, they're taking care of somebody home on leave, putting them up there in 1st class. And we eventually made it to Grand Rapids about midnight and touchdown, and the captain came over the intercom and said, well, I'd like everybody to remain seated. We have an American hero on board. And there was a pause, and then he continued, and he said, we've carried the remains of Brock Buckland home on this flight. And his brother Brad is in 1st class and has accompanied him the 6,000 miles from Iraq. And for the next 40 minutes, I sat on this plane at midnight in seat 24A, and I watched the coffin come out. The honor guard was there. I watched his family, his 4-year-old son, and collapsing literally on the tarmac. And all you can think of is how awful it is, and you hope the tide of war never turns on you. But for me, as an F-16 pilot, that was the first time I ever saw the other side of the tragedy of war. And I can assure you, anybody else that was in that seat that I was in that day would be doing the same thing that I'm doing. It changes you forever. To date, we've lost 4,669 soldiers. Families have given those individuals to us as American citizens. Over 40,000 families are coping with a wounded military member from Iraq and Afghanistan, the conflicts there. And more importantly, from a generational aspect, there are over 733,000 people or families that have given their soldiers to each one of us as American citizens from conflicts dating back to World War I. And I stress that it's not just about educating the legacy here, it's about honoring the fallen is truly what we're about. And we have two things in common in this room, and one, that we're very blessed to be a part of the PGA of America and the golf industry. And the other one is that we are Americans, and we have a debt to our military members and their families and the sacrifices that they make on a daily basis to provide that blanket of freedom which we sleep under every night. Patriot Golf Day was a great example of what we can do as an organization with our 28,000 men and women. If we unite, we truly can change the world. And Bob said it best, what if every golf course, and there's no reason every golf course in America should not join in the fight this year. One thing I have not disclosed until now is on that flight, that United Flight 664 that night, and it was very, very late, it was actually into the next morning, the captain had made that request that people stay on the airplane to honor the Bucklands until his remains were removed. And most people sat around for 10 or 15 minutes, and then about half the airplane proceeded to get off. And what I ask each one of you here today, personally, as leaders in the golf industry and as PGA members, that you go to fellow PGA members, to golfers around the country, and you encourage them to represent and join the half that stayed on that airplane.